Hi, welcome to Justice Now. You've reached the Workplace Mobbing, Part 7. So with this, because Part 6, I wasn't quite sure what I was going to entitle it as. So, Workplace Mobbing, Part 7, I'm going to focus on the reasons why the perpetrators wish to provoke you to the point of contacting human resources. Now, remember in my earlier posts, video posts, I had mentioned that they are trying to provoke you out of a job. They're trying to push you out of the company. One of the ways in which they try to push you out of the company is by having you end up going to HR. So this is typically what happens, and I see I'm going through this right now, where I've informed my supervisor I'm not really getting much support there anymore, because the group has gotten so big, comprised of majority of people I don't even know, harassing and terrorizing, which is again very tacky. So it's become so widespread like a virus. They keep attacking in different ways. It's not always the same person. It's coming in different context. I mean, right now, it's come to the point where the last position I applied to, they're now saying that there is an interview process, because there was another position I applied to. There's an interview within that same company. There's an interview process, and the two managers that are going to be reviewing, one is with another department, and the other is on a committee with the perpetrator. So I already know that this is the setup. I mean, it's very unusual. But I already know that this is the setup, right? I know that this particular manager who is going to be there, the one that's on a committee with the perpetrator, they have relations outside the company, right? So, I mean, we already know how this is going to go, right? So at this point, but I digress. But that's how they network. I mean, the networking is just unreal. In terms of how far the negativity goes. You know, these people are just, these creatures are just disgusting. So so this is typically what would happen, and this has also happened to me, and I'm sure other targets can identify. They will terrorize you. They'll provoke you, and you'll go to the supervisor, but the supervisor can't, or they'll tell you they can't see anything, even though I'm sure that they hear stuff. I'm sure that they see stuff, and they just turn a blind eye, or maybe they really don't know, as information's not really coming to them, right? So maybe they don't know. Who knows? But either way, for whatever reason, you're not being believed. You know, because the way that they go is in terms of, well, you know, how could so many people be wrong about one person? We see it all the time. Many people can be wrong about one person. You know, just look at what happened with the concentration camps and with Hitler. You know, you had so many people going against marginalized groups. You know, saying that incinerating people and sterilizing people were the right thing to do. You had a whole country that supported this, even though it was wrong. So, you know, you bring that to the workplace, you know, this is pretty much similar. You know, this is pretty much similar. You know, they're trying to kill your spirit each time. So what happens now is they provoke you and they provoke you, and then the manager steps in. They're saying, "Oh, well, there's nothing that we can do about it. Go to HR." At this point, what HR does is they'll take the grievance or the report or the concerns and they'll investigate. And guess who they'll investigate? They'll investigate the very people, of course, that you've allegedly claimed are terrorizing you through workplace harassment. But you see, there's already two things against the target already. The first thing is that the target is not being believed, right? Key people are not seeing it. Perpetrators are ingratiating themselves with the managers, and some managers might even be in on it, and they just either see it and refuse to do anything, or they're a part of it themselves. The other thing that happens is that the company is also about defending their brand. So if there's anything that might serve to chip away at their brand of being nothing less than stellar, then that's also something else that's against the target. The company or the organization will more likely preserve their brand and replace the targets rather than fix the stench of workplace mobbing, workplace harassment, and other types of torments that go on within. So they'll rather, it's like they take an air freshener and they're spraying, hoping that the stink will cover up, right? And they're hating you because you're saying it stinks in here. The stench is toxic. It stinks in here. But, mind you, the perpetrators created it and put it there. You're saying that the stench is so high, but rather than HR going and removing the stench or the sources of the stench, which are the perpetrators, they would much rather take air freshener, spray it, and say, now it's cleaner air. Right? I'm using a metaphor. So in short, they would much rather replace you than to say their place stinks. And their place stinks because of the perpetrators that they have. So what ends up happening is that the organization inadvertently, or it could be purposeful, end up siding with the perpetrators. They end up protecting the perpetrators because they would much rather protect the perpetrators and claim that their brand or the way their company operates is stellar. And, of course, if they're going for accreditation or any types of awards, such as Best Employer, they want their company presented as stellar. Anyone who claims that workplace racism or workplace harassment or workplace mobbing or workplace sexism or workplace ageism is happening are immediately shunned because they are now no longer preserving the company brand. And then this is where the organization or company would then be willing to lie than to fix the problems. And then you're left with a question. Do you really want to work in a place like that? So the typical thing that happens to targets. Rumors and innuendos have gone around. They've constantly went and said all these lies. They've ingratiated themselves with superiors. Superiors are saying, okay, you need to go to HR. HR does the investigation. Lo and behold, they find nothing, right? Because they're protecting their brand and they're listening to the lies of all the perpetrators that are involved. And then they turn around and they say that you're the problem. So this is the reason why at this point I've held off on considering HR I mean, if it gets to this point, to me, if it gets to this point, it's time for an exit strategy. I would strongly suggest that you do the same. You have a choice of staying on there and quote unquote toughing it out. I do want to say that, use at caution, because you stand a high chance of risking your own mental health and from the constant traumas and terrorism that they do, as well as risking your physical health. So that's just in a nutshell of what happens. I'm not quite sure for parts 8, but thanks for tuning in, and another video for workplace mobbing will be uploaded soon.